This video is going to be an introduction into 3D shapes. So for this next unit, you will have to find the volume and surface area of three-dimensional shapes. However, we first want to just quickly do an introduction to these shapes. So here we have a rectangular prism, we have a triangular prism, a cylinder. Here we have a cone, a rectangular pyramid, and a sphere. So throughout the next month or so, you'll have to find the volume and surface area of these 3D shapes. But you can go ahead and open up your notes. We're going to look at the top left corner. So our directions say we want to write the name of each shape. We are going to shade the base yellow. We want to label the base with the big B and then write the formula of B. And by the way, this big B stands for the area of our base. So we would write the area formula. Then we want to label the height of each shape as H, and then when possible, we would label the radius R and the diameter D. So here we actually have a rectangular prism. Rectangular prism. And the shape of its base is going to be a rectangle. Now, something that's very important is that whenever you are identifying the base of a rectangular prism, it's always going to be the bottom. So the bottom of this rectangular prism is going to be B for its base. Now, we also want to label the height of the shape. So the height is going to be the distance from base to base. So here I have this base on the bottom, and parallel to it, I'm going to have this base on top as well. So the height of my prism is going to be here. That's going to be H. And then we do not have a radius or a diameter. Now, looking at this shape here, this is going to be the net of a rectangular prism, and its bases will always be the flaps that stick out of the net. This would be big B. And its height would be the distance between these two bases. So this would be the height of this net. Now, we still want to know the formula for B. So what is the formula for the area of a rectangle? So if you look at your formula chart on this side, I'm going to zoom in, and for area here, we have rectangle, and we go to the side and we see area equals little b times little h. Now, you can use that formula if you like, or what you've been doing for a long time is, you know, the formula for area of a rectangle is length times width. And that is typically what I like to use is area equals length times width. That way you don't get confused with the B and the H, because they mean different things when you're finding the area. They don't stand for this B and this H. And again, remember that the area of a 3D rectangular prism, it's always going to be the bottom. That's the most important thing you need to remember here. Okay, then let's go ahead and go down. We're going to look at this shape is called a triangular prism. And in the word triangular prism, you hear me say triangle. So the shape of its base is a triangle. And in this shape here, the triangles are going to be my bases. So this is a big B. And I can go ahead and label the second, or highlight the second triangle. And remember, we also want to label the height of our triangle. So again, remember that the height of your prism is the distance between your bases. So the distance between my bases would be this. So this would be H. This would be my height. Okay. Now, on this triangular prism, we have a net. So again, the flaps that stick out are going to be your bases. So these are my bases for my triangular prism. Now I want to know the height. And again, the height is the distance between your bases. So this would be the height of my prism. This is going to be H. Now I want to know the formula for B. So what is the area of my triangle? What is the formula for area of a triangle? So I go to my reference materials, and I see here that the formula for area of a triangle is going to be 1/2 base times height. So there's a couple different ways that you can write this. You can do area equals 1/2 base times height, or another formula that I tend to see students like more is base times height divided by 2. Either way, they are the same thing, but just some students do prefer base times height divided by 2. So it's completely up to you. Okay, and then looking at the bottom, this shape is going to be called a rectangular pyramid. So the base is what the pyramid sits on, and this pyramid sits on a rectangle. So the rectangle is the base of my pyramid. So this is my base. So this is big B. Okay, now the height of your pyramid is going to be from the peak of your pyramid to the center of your base. So this is your height. The other sides of your triangle or your pyramid here, these are called your slant heights, and you do not need to know your slant height this year. So again, the height of your pyramid is from the peak of your pyramid to the center of your base. And lastly, we want to again know the formula for big B, and since big B, or our base, is a rectangle, remember the formula for area of a rectangle is going to be area equals little b times little h, or area equals length times width, which is what I prefer. Okay, now looking at your rectangular pyramid net, again, in a pyramid, your base is going to be in the center of your net. So this would be your big B. And you would not be able to identify your height on this pyramid until you would close all of these flaps. So you would not be able to tell your height from this. Okay, so that's the first three. We're going to go ahead and now look at our next shape. And our next shape is a cylinder. So on a cylinder, the shape of its base is a circle. So looking at our three-dimensional shape here, up top, the circle would be its base. So this would be big B. Now, with cylinders, they can either give you a diameter or a radius. Now, the difference between these is, here this would be an example of a radius because this line only goes halfway. So this is its radius. Now looking at the bottom, we see that this line goes all the way across our circle. So this is going to be its diameter. Now lastly, the last thing you need to know about your cylinder is its height. And again, the height is going to be the distance between your two bases. So the distance between your two circles is going to be your height. Now looking at this net, we want to again identify our base. So our base is going to be the flaps that are sticking out of our net, and this is going to be big B. Now looking up top, I see that my line only goes halfway, so this is an example of its radius. Looking at the bottom circle, this line goes all the way across, so this is going to be an example of the diameter. And again, lastly, the height is the distance between your bases, so this would be h. This would be your height. And then lastly, the formula for B, so the formula for the area of your base, the formula for area of a circle here. We look on our reference chart and we see that the formula for area of a circle is going to be pi r squared. Area equals pi r squared. And that is for a cylinder. So then we look at our next shape, and our next shape is going to be a cone. So this is a cone, and the base of a cone is going to be a circle. So looking at this shape, this is going to be its base, so we're going to label it with a big B. Okay, and looking here at this cone, this line only goes halfway, so this is going to be its radius. Then looking up top, we see that this line goes all the way across. So if we had a line going all the way across this circle, this would be its diameter. Now the height of your cone is from the peak of your cone to the middle of the base, and this would be its height. If they gave you a slant height here, you can automatically cross it out because you do not need to know your slant height to find the volume of a cone. And then lastly, we want to know what is the formula for B. So what is the formula for area of your base, which is a circle? Again, formula for area of a circle is going to be pi r squared. So here, area equals pi times r squared. And then we go ahead and look at our net. So the net of our cone, at first we want to identify our base. So this would be the base of our cone. And so I'm going to label it with the big B. And on this base, we see that we have a line only going halfway. So this is going to be an example of its radius. Now, when we fold this net, its height, again, would be from the peak to the center of its base. So it's saying here that this dashed line represents its base. So this is going to be the height. And then this line going all the way across would represent the diameter of your cone. Okay. Lastly, we want to talk about a sphere. So on a sphere, there is no base. So there is no formula. There is no formula for B. Really, the only thing that you need to know about a sphere is its radius. The radius is the only thing that it will be important as we're finding volume for a sphere. And so that concludes 3D shapes.